Warp drive is one of the most important pieces of tech in Star Trek, but what is warp drive? Hey Trekkies, Christian Fox here with another video for you. Today, I want to answer the question, what is warp drive? Warp drive is the faster than light travel that most ships in Star Trek use to roll around the galaxy. Although warp drive was already in use by other species in the 1950s, possibly earlier, it wasn't until 2063 that humans began using the technology thanks to Zefram Cochrane, as seen in the film Star Trek First Contact. Warp drive essentially creates a subspace bubble around a ship, allowing the ship to move faster than the speed of light. Warp drive speeds are typically referred to as factors and go from warp factor 1 all the way up to warp factor 9.9. The warp scale is somewhat confusing because it wasn't made consistent until Star Trek The Next Generation. In the original series, the warp scale always seemed to change, as the impossible warp speed could be warp 9 or warp 11 depending on the episode. By the TNG era, specifically in Star Trek Voyager, the fastest warp speed was warp 10. Warp 10 was so fast it could get you anywhere instantaneously, though it's not really a great travel option because it has the strange effect of putting you everywhere all at once, and it might turn you into a space lizard. While Warp 1 through 4 were impressive and allowed for interstellar travel, it wasn't until Warp 5 that exploring the galaxy became possible. The first starship to use the Warp 5 engine was the NX-01 Enterprise, commanded by Jonathan Archer, as seen in Star Trek Enterprise. As great as warp drive is, it does cause damage to subspace over time, and for a while, speed limits were imposed, as seen in the TNG Season 7 episode, Force of Nature. However, that story was quickly dropped by the time Star Trek Voyager came out, and the USS Voyager itself seemed to solve that problem with her nacelles arcing up when they would go to warp, but that was really never confirmed on screen. The amazing speeds of warp drive is all made possible thanks to dilithium crystals and the matter-antimatter reaction in the warp core, and they also need deuterium, but that seems to come and go. Dilithium crystals and deuterium are super easy to find, unless they're not. If you would like to get into the nitty-gritty of warp drive, then I would suggest checking out E.C. Henry or Certifiably In-Game. Of course, warp drive isn't the only way to travel.